welcome to Raccoon Tale. I hope you enjoy your time here and find peace in the stories we tell. If you liked the story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. In the third year of my marriage into the general's estate, the young general, Arthur Xiao, brought back a woman named Lily Yun from the border. He held a grand ceremony, welcoming her into the manor, bestowing upon her the highest favor and openly declaring his intention to favor the concubine and demote the lawful wife. If Lily hadn't accompanied me and endured hardships at the border, how could I have persevered until the day of our great victory? How could I have gained the crown prince's favor? He proclaimed. But Arthur completely forgot about the supplies and rations I continuously poured into the border like running water. He knew even less that the person the crown prince favored had never, ever been him. While he brazenly embraced Lily to find pleasure in the tavern, smug and indulgent, little did he know that in the building right opposite, I was also tightly held in the crown prince's arms. It was the 8th day of the 12th lunar month, a night of heavy snow. In Royal Pavilion, the most prosperous establishment in the capital, the person I had been waiting for was still nowhere to be seen. Madam, the young general must have been bewitched by that vixen again and forgotten your appointment today. It's clear that you are the true mistress of the general's estate. Yet those ungrateful servants in the manor treat you like nothing. Just because that vixen gave them a little benefit, they betrayed you immediately. Behind me was the resentful voice of my maid, Clara Fang. I pretended not to hear her, leaning warily against the railing, my empty gaze drifting over the bustling crowd below. Suddenly, my eyes felt as if they were burned by something. I blinked repeatedly. In the crowd, two familiar figures appeared. It was my husband, Arthur, along with the new concubine who had just entered the manor, Lily. The two figures pressed close to each other, squeezing through the sea of people, looking exactly like a match made in heaven. Looking at Arthur's face, my heart suddenly seized with sharp pangs of pain. In this freezing weather, aren't you afraid of catching a chill? A deep, hoarse voice suddenly echoed in my ear. At the same time, a large, warm cloak was draped over me from behind, wrapping me tightly. I froze and snapped back to reality, only belatedly realizing that Clara and the other servants who had been standing beside me were nowhere to be seen. Sebastian Lee was wearing a dark robe, the hems and sleeves embroidered with golden threads depicting soaring cranes and clouds, signifying his noble status. I instinctively lowered my eyes and respectfully curtsied to pay my respects. "This commoner greets your highness," I murmured. Sebastian suddenly grabbed my wrist, his voice low. "Do we still need to be so distant with each other?" His words, along with the scorching heat from the hand gripping my wrist, pierced straight into my heart. A heart that should have been as still as dead water. I stiffened, wanting to break free from his confinement, but it was useless. I looked up in panic, meeting those dark, deep eyes that looked like profound pools, and my heart began to tremble, contracting uncontrollably. "It is against propriety," I stammered. "Your Highness is not yet married, you should mind your words and actions." My refusal came out stuttering and broken, even I wanted to laugh at myself after hearing it. Why is it that whenever I stand before this man, I lose my ability to speak eloquently? Sebastian just stared at me silently. After a long while, he asked in a hoarse voice, "Do you love him that much?" He suddenly took a step forward. I tensed and instinctively stepped back, my waist hitting the freezing cold railing. Sebastian seemed entirely oblivious to my rejection. He pressed closer, his gaze dark and unfathomable. "Eleanor Song, exactly how many more times do you want to push me away?" My heart trembled slightly. I suddenly met that familiar yet foreign gaze and I was momentarily dazed. Sebastian's warm, dry hand lifted my chin, and he bowed his head, forcing a kiss upon my lips. The unfamiliar breath, the unfamiliar intimacy made me temporarily forget how to react. Sebastian took the opportunity to pull me tightly into his embrace, his scorching heat seemingly trying to melt me. From the corner of my eye, on the second floor of the tavern next to Royal Pavilion, my husband was pinning his new concubine against a half-open window, kissing her passionately. That scene viciously stabbed right into my eyes. The hands that were already placed on Sebastian's chest, preparing to push him away, suddenly clenched tight. Immediately after, I squeezed my eyes shut, proactively stood on my tiptoes, and chased after the warmth I had originally intended to drive away. Responding to that kiss, Sebastian only hesitated for a single moment before immediately seizing back the initiative. I stopped struggling, allowing his breath to conquer and claim the territory between my lips and teeth. In this moment, the figure Arthur never appeared in my mind. Instead, it was someone who looked 70 or 80% like him. That person had crossed a city full of wind and snow to come before me, leaving me with an unforgettable, bone-deep romance. I forcefully wrapped my arms tightly around Sebastian's neck. A glistening tear slowly slid down from my tightly closed eyes. My Vincent, it really has been far too long since we last met. By the time I returned to the manor, it was already late at night. Sebastian sat silently in the carriage. Just as I was about to stand up, he raised his hand and pressed down on the hem of my dress. In a few days, the palace will hold a banquet at the royal villa to reward the triumphant border generals. I will wait for you there, he said. Your Highness, tonight's affair was merely a dream. I replied softly. Once this commoner steps down from this carriage, please forget it. Sebastian's expression changed slightly. You are telling me to forget. He stared at me intently. In those eyes that were usually as calm as an ancient well, it seemed as if countless sorrows had gathered in an instant. Facing that gaze, I could never bring myself to say harsh words. One standing, one sitting, we stalemated for a long time before I finally spoke with difficulty. Your Highness is the crown prince, of noble status, while this commoner is already a married woman. The difference between us is like clouds and mud. We should never have had any entanglement. After saying that, I forcefully yanked my sleeve back, and stepped down from the carriage without looking back. Clara, who had been waiting beside the carriage, kept a solemn face, pretending to be deaf and blind, not daring to glance at or speculate about what had happened inside. I held onto her arm and jumped down, fleeing into the manor almost in a panic. The red gates of the general's estate slowly closed behind me, completely cutting off that dark, somber gaze that seemed to pierce right through the carriage curtains. It was near midnight now. Most of the sweeping servants in the manor had already gone to rest. I walked slowly through the quiet garden, pondering every scene that had occurred tonight. When passing by the main courtyard where Arthur lived, I suddenly asked Clara. Clara instinctively glanced at the quiet courtyard. Probably not yet, madam. I replied indifferently, my footsteps not stopping as I walked straight towards the Xingwu courtyard, located in the most desolate corner of the manor. Clara felt somewhat indignant. Back then, when you married into the Xiao manor, the young general found all sorts of excuses to push you to the Xingwu courtyard, which is both far and small. And that woman surnamed Yun is merely a concubine, yet now she occupies the position that originally belongs to you. Madam, are you truly not angry? Hearing this, I said calmly. Lily's prestige in this manor is upheld by Arthur. Clara was unwilling to accept it. Could it be that she really has no fault at all? Right and wrong are inherently difficult to distinguish in this world, let alone the fact that I wasn't being genuine either. I patted her shoulder lightly and said no more. That night, lying beneath the cold brocade quilt, I once again dreamt of that snowy night years ago. I had taken a boat to a shop in Suzhou to check the ledgers. On the boat, we were attacked by villains, and I fell into the river. The chilling river water soaked the cotton clothes on my body, making them as heavy as 1,000 pounds. I struggled desperately in the current, but was still dragged down bit by bit to the bottom of the river by the sheer weight. Just when the air in my chest was about to run out, the sound of splashing water echoed from far to near. A pair of warm, powerful arms slipped under my armpits, wrapped around my waist, and pulled me back from the gates of hell. The person who saved me was named Vincent Xiao. He had a handsome, charming face, a mind full of profound knowledge and breathtaking talent. That year, Jinling Prefecture encountered a heavy snowstorm, rarely seen in decades. Many people froze to death. Vincent came to save them, and conveniently saved me as well. When I was taken to the clinic, I was already unconscious. He left me at the clinic and departed. After my family found me, I remained in a stupor for several consecutive days. As soon as I could barely walk, I wanted to go out and find my savior. But that day, I heard many people in the streets and alleys calling him the Little Blue Sky. It was said that he was ordered by the imperial court to come south for disaster relief. As soon as he arrived, he began to eradicate evil and punish the wicked, throwing all the corrupt officials who embezzled relief silver into prison. Rumor also had it that not only did he have effective methods for disaster relief, but he also handled cases with divine brilliance. When someone knelt before him crying out regarding an injustice, he decisively overturned a whole backlog of old cases that had been pending for years, restoring innocence to the guiltless commoners. Day by day, I squeezed through the crowd to watch his busy figure, and suddenly, I also wanted to do something. I returned home and persuaded my parents, swearing that the silver spent on disaster relief today would definitely be earned back twofold in the future. I set up porridge, distributing stalls one by one in the refugee area west of the city. My second meeting with him was right there in the refugee area. After that, it seemed that every time we met, we were busy with the exact same cause. The refugees in Jinling Prefecture were properly settled. All the subsequent arrangement work was shouldered by me single-handedly. Vincent was astonished by my decisiveness. "My lady, you plan to take in tens of thousands of refugees. Aren't you afraid? With you, young master, shielding the wind and snow in the front, what do I have to fear?" I smiled firmly, my heart having already formed meticulous resettlement plans. Vincent looked at me deeply, a few more traces of warmth added to those tranquil eyes. A few days later, he had to set off again to patrol the disaster situation in other areas. The day of parting happened to be the 8th day of the 12th lunar month. I saw him off outside the city. Amidst the vast expanse of snow, I confessed my feelings. "Vincent, I have feelings for you. If you share my sentiment, let us meet again next year on the 8th day of the 12th month at the Qinhuai River." For the year following that, we frequently exchanged letters. I gradually took over my family's tea business, following the merchant caravans across rivers south and north, seeking new opportunities to fulfill the promise I had made to my parents. Following the caravans, I tasted delicacies from all over the land, and finally, I decided to open a tavern that would gather the world's finest flavors, naming it Roi Pavilion. The first Roi Pavilion was opened in Jinling Prefecture. In my letters, I often complained to Vincent about all sorts of difficulties I encountered on the path of commerce. Vincent never spoke in detail about what he was going through, he only sent me a small local trinket every time he arrived at a new place. In the blink of an eye, it was the 8th day of the 12th month of the following year. I stood by the Qinhuai River, facing the river wind for a whole night, and in the end, I only waited for a shattered jade pendant. "You were the one who led me out of that snowy storm," I thought bitterly. "He is dead. The treacherous officialdom is full of ups and downs, and swords and blades are merciless." From the very first meeting in Jinling Prefecture, I had already guessed that his path ahead would undoubtedly be fraught with extreme difficulties. But I could not accept this kind of separation. I locked myself in my room, thinking for 3 days and 3 nights, gathered my emotions, and then set off once again. I wanted to trace the places he had traveled, to walk them all over again. I wanted to know exactly who had killed him. But I discovered that the man named Vincent, once he left Jinling Prefecture, seemed to evaporate from this world. I was unwilling to give up. Tracing the few clues he had left behind, searching in circles several times over, I looked for a full year and still harvested nothing. Just when I had lost all hope, I received bad news from the capital. Because the chief manager in charge of the tea business in the capital had run into trouble, I was forced to rush there to handle the mess. Then, by chance, I saw the young master of the general's estate, Arthur, riding a horse through the streets. He looked so absurdly like Vincent. He looked so alike that I couldn't resist approaching him, wanting to probe the secrets he might hold. Arthur was just like any other playboy aristocrat, accustomed to dallying with women, showing no resistance to the ladies who constantly threw themselves at him. Initially, I pretended to be like them, acting as if I only sought to rely on his power and status. He had no shrewdness at all. It only took me half a month to find out clearly that the Xiao family absolutely did not have anyone named Vincent. Perhaps the resemblance between them was merely a coincidence. My purpose achieved, I decisively retreated. I didn't expect that the man who had always fluttered through countless flowers would actually notice my departure. At that time, I was busy opening the second branch of Roi Pavilion. Arthur lingered before my eyes every single day. It was hard not to notice him, and because of his face, I found it truly difficult to be harsh and drive him away. Entangled like this for half a year, old General Xiao suddenly came to Roi Pavilion in secret to meet me. "My lady, since you have no heart for my son, why did you still approach him?" The old man had snow-white hair and beard, but his eyes were so sharp they struck fear into people. I had a vague premonition that before coming here, he must have understood me quite well. The truth was exactly as I had guessed. Immediately after, the old general changed his strict demeanor, his voice softening. "The person you are looking for, this old man knows where he is." "Where? You know Vincent?" I instantly became agitated. But old General Xiao did not mention another word about him. Instead, he presented me with a choice. "You shall marry my son as his wife and devote yourself wholeheartedly to supporting him for 3 years. When that time comes, this old man will tell you the whereabouts of Vincent. Originally, I didn't want to agree, but I was stopped by one sentence from the old general. If you leave the Xiao family, the person you currently cannot find, you will still not find in the future. Just like that, I was moved. Arthur, however, was the complete opposite. He began to treat me with coldness and resentment. On our wedding night, he was filled with disappointment, murmuring in a desolate voice, "Eleanor, I thought you were different from all the other women. Who would have expected that even you are just someone greedy for climbing high and clinging to power? I don't know what tricks you used to bewitch my father and force me to marry you, but a scheming woman like you is not worthy of me." Arthur, his eyes red, fiercely threw aside the wedding veil and turned to leave the bridal chamber. His cold detachment happened to suit my wishes perfectly. Not long after, Arthur was sent to the border military camp by old General Xiao. In its early years, the Xiao family had already been feared and guarded against by His Majesty, forcing them to hand over their military power. Ever since the crown prince's birth mother passed away, the family's status had begun to decline. Old General Xiao was old and frail. He could only place the hope of the family's future upon his only son. The border was the new path the old general had chosen for Arthur. It was also in that same year that the old general fell gravely ill. Before he passed away, he opened his heart to me. "Eleanor, you have a quick mind and are excellent at adapting to circumstances. You are a person of supreme intelligence. Regardless of what your original purpose was, by entrusting the Xiao family and Arthur to you, I can rest at ease." Looking at the old man who was like a candle in the wind, my heart felt heavy. I gave a faint smile and asked in return, "Since the old general knows I harbor ulterior motives, how do you still dare to place your trust in me?" Old General Xiao replied, "Because you are the person that Vincent trusts." My pupils suddenly contracted. Almost in an instant, I thought of Vincent. Under my shocked gaze, the old general continued haltingly, "The current crown prince, Sebastian, 2 years ago, he changed his surname to Shao and went down to Jiangnan for disaster relief." Whatever words he said after that, I couldn't process a single syllable. In my mind, only one single thought was echoing. The current crown prince, Sebastian, was exactly the Vincent I had been searching for all along. No wonder the old general had said in the past, "With my power alone, I cannot find the person." So many doubts that I could never figure out before now all had a reasonable explanation. Because he was the crown prince, changing his name and surname to go down to Jiangnan, using the identity of an imperial envoy to patrol the disaster area. That was why no one dared to stop him. Because he was the crown prince, he could easily erase all traces belonging to Vincent. Because he was the crown prince, accustomed since childhood to seeing noble ladies of illustrious families bowing their heads to curry favor, he could so casually toy with my true, sincere heart. From beginning to end, the person I loved, the person I searched for, was originally someone who didn't exist. I was just a commoner woman in plain clothes. Naturally, I couldn't even catch a glimpse of that precious, noble heir to the throne. In an instant, my eyes brimmed with tears. A doomed fate. It is all just a doomed fate. The old general sighed helplessly. How could it not be? I muttered with a bitter smile. He coughed a few times and laboriously grabbed my hand. "Eleanor, this old man does not beg you to stay in the Xiao family for a lifetime. Just 3 years. 3 years is enough. If Arthur is truly someone who cannot be supported, you may withdraw at any time. Your parents love you. They will surely make long-term plans for your future." I was in despair over the truth, but I also respected this old man's sincerity, so I nodded and agreed. "Within 3 years, I will not leave the Xiao family, and I will strictly follow our initial agreement, devoting all my heart and effort to supporting Arthur." But I frowned, looked at him, and laughed in self-mockery. I come from a merchant family. I might be good at managing business, but to help Arthur soar 90,000 miles in a single bound, I fear that is too unrealistic. The old general's attitude was extremely resolute. "Only you can do it. If you are valuing the fated relationship between me and Sebastian, I'm afraid you will be disappointed." The old general shook his head and said nothing. After the old general passed away, Sebastian was ordered to come to the Xiao manor to pay his respects. That was our reunion. All the past events had become mere illusions. Now, there was only silent gazing at each other. "Eleanor," he began softly, "this commoner greets His Highness the Crown Prince." I suppressed my bitterness and bowed slightly to perform the courtesy, but my eye rims uncontrollably turned red. He instinctively raised his hand, seemingly wanting to wipe away my tears. I tilted my head to avoid him, my red eyes distantly reminding him, "Your Highness, it is improper for men and women to be so close. Please behave with dignity." Sebastian's hand froze in mid-air. I looked deeply at him one last time, then shifted my gaze, coldly seeing the guest out. The capital was so large. In the past, wanting to meet Sebastian even once was harder than ascending to the heavens. Back then, I couldn't find him anywhere. Now, we seemed to cross paths everywhere. To support Arthur, I had opened many shops in the capital. Money and provisions, cart after cart, were continuously sent out to the border. Hearing the news of Arthur's steady promotions, and how he was supposedly truly valued by the crown prince, I only found it laughable. Sebastian often found all sorts of excuses to meet me. We would meet only to remain in silence. This stalemate lasted for 3 years. Arthur had become the ever-victorious general, renowned throughout the world. After once again heavily defeating the northern desert forces, he led his army back in triumph. Returning with him was a woman. That day, I stood before the gates of the Xiao manor, watching helplessly as he embraced that woman, walked right up to me, and coldly, arrogantly declared, "Eleanor, look closely. Lily is the true wife in my heart." I looked at them calmly. Congratulations. Arthur probably didn't expect me to be so unfazed. He gritted his teeth, glared at me, and suddenly let out a cold laugh. "She is not like you. She has never schemed for anything from me. My father is dead. From now on, no one can interfere with my marriage anymore." I remained completely indifferent. Indeed, my attitude seemed to enrage him. He set Lily down, strode over to me, pinched my chin, and viciously warned, "From now on, you'd better behave yourself, or else, believe it or not, I will divorce you." I looked straight into his eyes and suddenly laughed. The great general is so angry. Won't Miss Lily misunderstand and think we have a very good relationship? Arthur's expression changed slightly. He took a deep look at me and hastily turned his head. Sure enough, he saw Lily with tears welling in her eyes, looking as if she were about to cry. He roughly pushed me away, glared at me once more, and then embraced Lily again, striding into the manor. "Lily, don't be angry. In my heart there is only you," he coaxed. Lily leaned on his shoulder and sobbed. "It's all my fault. When we were at the border, I should have used 3 feet of white silk to hang myself. Why did I come back to hinder the feelings between you and Madame?" "Shut up. I don't allow you to blame yourself like that." Arthur frowned, his eyes filled with disgust as he glanced back at me. "Back then, it was my father who forced me to marry her for no reason. She and I have no feelings whatsoever. Even now, we haven't consummated the marriage. What kind of madam is she to me?" Lily's eyes were filled with tears. "But everyone knows she is your wife." Arthur pursed his lips and carefully comforted her. "Very soon, she won't be anymore. I will let the whole capital know, let everyone know, that my only wife is you." Finally, Lily was coaxed by him to the point of breaking into a smile through her tears. She wrapped her arms around his shoulders, lifted her head, and proactively kissed him. Clara, my maid, was initially stunned and wide-eyed at her wanton behavior, then turned pale with anger. "Have you no shame in broad daylight?" Lily seemed to hear her words and deliberately flashed a provocative smile in my direction. She seemed to be showing off to me, telling me that from this moment on, both Arthur and this Xiao manor belonged entirely to her. On the second day after Arthur returned to the manor, he made a huge spectacle of opening the ancestral hall, leading Lily to pay respects to the ancestors. When I heard this news, I only felt he was incredibly stupid. 3 years of training at the border, yet his brain hadn't grown a single bit. Right now was the time for discussing merits and bestowing rewards. Countless eyes, both in the open and in the dark, were watching his every move in the capital. Today he dared to favor a concubine and disrespect his wife. Tomorrow, memorials of impeachment from the censorate would fly to His Majesty's desk like a blizzard. Did he really think everyone was sincerely convinced of his merits? Originally, I intended to remind Arthur that even if his love for Lily was as deep as the sea, he should endure it for a while. But he misunderstood and thought I was jealous. "Nuff, Eleanor," Arthur snapped. "You are just a merchant's daughter who used every trick to get what you wanted, and now you think everyone is like you. Let me tell you, Lily is different. What right do you have to compare yourself to her?" The moment Arthur opened his mouth, he wanted to trample me down to the bone. Lily nestled into his arms, her tears falling as if they cost nothing, her voice soft and sobbing. "Arthur, it's all my fault. I caused you to fight with Madame as soon as you returned. Perhaps you should just let me go." Arthur heart-touchingly hugged her tightly, his gaze looking at me both viciously and warningly. "She is my life. Whoever wants her to leave me, I will kill them. The two of them were so deeply in love that it made me nauseous. I was too lazy to waste extra words, only tossing back one sentence. Arthur, you are truly foolish beyond saving. After saying that, I stood up and left. 2 days later, the entire capital knew that Arthur wanted to elevate Lily to the status of an equal wife. Exactly as I predicted, a censor impeached Arthur. Sebastian secretly summoned Arthur. I don't know what they discussed in private, I only know that Arthur continued to act arrogantly according to his own wishes. The servants in the manor gradually stopped taking me seriously and turned to revere Lily as the madam. This elevation made Lily even more self-important. Gradually, she could no longer hide the ambition and hostility in her heart. Finally, she barged straight into the Xingwu courtyard. Eleanor, I already know your secret. Her face was full of smug triumph. I was pruning the winter plum branches. Hearing this, I actually found it a bit amusing. Even I didn't know what secret I possessed. I put down the scissors and looked at her calmly. Oh, is that so? Perhaps angered by my contemptuous attitude, Lily suddenly lunged in front of me, suppressing her anger and making a dark threat. Arthur has told me everything. Back then, you merely used vicious tricks to bewitch the old general and forced Arthur to marry you. Arthur has always hated social climbers the most. Now that his wings are fully grown, there will be no place for you to set foot in this Xiao manor. So, it was about this. I instantly lost interest and lazily picked up the scissors again. But in the next second, Lily suddenly grabbed my wrist, causing the sharp blades of the scissors to thrust toward her own stomach. Naturally, this stab didn't connect. Lily had accurately calculated the time for Arthur to rush over and save her, simultaneously confirming my intent to harm right in front of his eyes. Arthur was uncontrollably furious. With one hand, he pushed me to the ground, his eyes looking at me as if he wanted to kill me. You venomous woman. Lily is carrying my flesh and blood in her womb, yet you are so vicious. I truly hate myself for being blind back then, to fall in love with a woman with a heart as poisonous as a snake like you. Lily cried like pure blossoms in the rain. Arthur, I just wanted to be friends with her. I wanted our child to be acknowledged. It's all my fault. The more she sobbed uncontrollably, the higher the flames of anger rose in Arthur's eyes. He suddenly grabbed a vase from the table and viciously hurled it straight at my wrist. Eleanor, you are jealous and malicious, without a shred of tolerance. I want to divorce you. The near bone-breaking pain in my wrist made my eyes turn red. I gritted my teeth tightly, suppressing my weakness, and looked coldly at Arthur. Divorce me. Arthur, do you dare? I sneered, mockingly pulling the corners of my lips, mercilessly tearing off that veil of pretense. Arthur, these past few days, whenever you go out, you always say that Lily shared life and death with you, that she helped you soar to the heavens. Then have you ever calculated how much money and provisions I have sent to the border over these 3 years? I struggled to stand up, walked step by step in front of them, and looked at him coldly. You eat from my bowl only to turn around and curse the hand that feeds you. How do you guess His Majesty will view this? You, Arthur, want to sever all ties of gratitude and affection with me. Then spit out everything you've swallowed into your stomach. Arthur was momentarily left speechless, the shame on his face almost impossible to hide. I was too lazy to pay him any more attention. I calmly bent down to pick up the scissors that had fallen at my feet. Taking advantage of their unpreparedness, I suddenly struck out, stabbing the blades straight into the hand Lily had just used to yank me. It hurts. Arthur, my hand. She screamed tragically in pain. Those fake tears finally had some genuine reality to them. I quickly took a step back, dodging Arthur's swinging arm, and looked at them coldly. Arthur, I have always clearly distinguished between gratitude and grudges. Today, for her sake, you tried to cripple one of my hands, so naturally, I must return the favor. Back then, I could make the old general force you to marry me. Today, I can also take her life without needing any schemes. If you still want to live peacefully with me, then control your people well. Otherwise, I don't mind blowing this matter up right before His Majesty, letting him and the whole world judge. You're crazy. Arthur was both furious and exasperated, the hatred in the depths of his eyes almost spilling over. People always say that extreme love turns into hate. Arthur didn't understand this principle, but Lily knew it very well. She didn't dare come near me to provoke me anymore, but she could use sweet words to trick Arthur into elevating her. It was just a pity she didn't understand that I was inherently a vengeful person. If I couldn't live comfortably, I didn't want to make things easy for them either. I had people secretly spread rumors in the tea houses and taverns of the capital that Arthur was keeping a mistress and elevating her to suppress his lawful wife. Arthur was already the most prominent new noble in the capital recently. Once draped in this romantic dispute, he immediately became the subject of everyone's post-meal gossip. These rumors naturally could not escape Sebastian's eyes. He secretly sent someone to deliver a message to me, asking in the letter what exactly I wanted to do. Looking at that letter, where even the handwriting wasn't disguised, I only felt extreme sarcasm. What exactly do I want? Could it be that you, Sebastian, do not know? I pulled the corners of my lips, suppressing the grievance in my eyes, and decisively threw the paper into the fire. The next day, a new story appeared in the major tea houses of the capital. A story about an ungrateful scoundrel who soared to the skies in a single bound. The story didn't mention Arthur by a single word, but every sentence couldn't help but be associated with him. That story, of course, was written by my own hand. Right now, I don't have much else, only a lot of money. Willingly letting the old general scheme against me back then was to repay the debt, because my initial purpose for approaching the Xiao family wasn't pure. But what is Arthur now? Reaping the benefits and still wanting to erect a monument of virtue. Where in the world is there such a good deal? And Sebastian as well. Having played the heartless betrayer, he still dared to harbor illusions of the past. Unwilling to abandon his noble status, yet unable to cut off romantic attachments. Where in the world is there such a good deal? He wanted to stand by with folded arms, but I naturally wouldn't grant him his wish. Having hurt my heart, he must prepare to be utilized by me to the very end. Under my deliberate instigation, those noisy rumors finally reached His Majesty. During the early morning court session, Arthur was directly reprimanded by His Majesty in front of all the civil and military officials. Not only was he grounded for 3 days, but he was also ordered to properly handle his domestic affairs before the celebration banquet. Arthur wasn't completely stupid. When he returned that day, he proactively came to the Xingwu courtyard to accompany me for a meal, even intending to stay the night. It was just a pity that before evening arrived, Lily used an excuse to call him away. It was like this for the next few days. As long as Arthur intended to get close to me, Lily would use all sorts of reasons to draw him away. I had seen through the petty tricks between the two of them, and smoothly proposed an appointment at Royi Pavilion on the 8th day of the 12th month. Everything went exactly as I expected. The person I waited for at Royi Pavilion was an old acquaintance. The 10th of the 12th month was the day of the celebration banquet. To reward the triumphant generals, the imperial court specifically chose the royal villa as the location. Early in the morning, Arthur appeared at the Xingwu courtyard, using high-sounding reasons to refuse to let me go with him. Those attending today are all rough men from the border who do not understand literature or ink. You never liked such occasions anyway. Just let Lily accompany me, he justified. She grew up at the border and is more familiar with them. I just looked at him indifferently and asked back, "Are you sure?" Arthur was already feeling guilty. Being looked at by me like this, for some reason, his defenses crumbled. He slammed his hand hard on the dressing table, his face showing impatience. "You are just a merchant's daughter. What right do you have to attend a celebration banquet, hosted by the royal family? Do you not know your own lowly origins? Going out with me, do you want others to laugh at me?" Testets, he really was good at shifting the blame. Looking at his hypocritical face, besides feeling nauseous, I also felt a bit of self-doubt. Why did I ever think they looked so similar in the past? I furrowed my brow slightly, suppressed my disgust, and waved him away. Seeing my agreement, the joy on Arthur's face wasn't even concealed. Not long after, a maid came in to report, "Madam, the general has taken Miss Lily out." The attendees at today's celebration banquet were all court nobles and important ministers. Yet he brought along a mistress. He truly discarded all face and dignity. Clara was so angry she couldn't stand it. I pulled the corners of my lips and calmly comforted her. He is so confident, so naturally. We must let him hit a wall to learn some sense. Otherwise, he will truly think that being appreciated by his superiors and valued by the crown prince is all his own merit. Clara frowned, asking in confusion, "Madam, he treats you like this. Do you truly feel no emotion in your heart?" I shook my head without hesitation. Clara was stunned by my decisive attitude. After hesitating for a long time, she asked cautiously, "If you didn't love him, why did you marry him back then?" Hearing this, I was momentarily dazed. Why did I marry him back then? Just because they looked alike. Only later did I understand that it was all a mistake. The person I thought was dead was actually living well. So whether this substitute existed or not, what did it matter? I pulled my lips in self-mockery, about to say something like I was blinded by my own foolishness, but from the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of a dark figure. Clara immediately adjusted her expression and respectfully reminded me, "Madam, His Highness the Crown Prince has arrived." Hearing this, I tilted my eyes and met the gaze of the person standing under the eaves. Facing his dark, suppressed look, the corners of my lips curled up, and I mocked him without holding back. "Climbing over the walls of the Xiao Manor whenever you please. Has the dignified Crown Prince resorted to acting like a cat burglar? Coming and going freely in this Xiao Manor like this, does Arthur know?" Sebastian frowned. "I am not happy. Do not mention him in front of me. Isn't he the capable minister that you appreciate? Bound by ties of blood, why can't he be mentioned? Eleanor, do you know why After staring at each other silently across a slightly open window for a moment, I hurriedly shifted my gaze and snorted coldly. "I don't know." As soon as my words fell, the person originally standing in the corridor suddenly placed his hands on the window frame and vaulted directly inside. "You? Mph." His breath pressed down, suppressing all my shock and dissatisfaction back into my throat. My heart skipped a beat. Once I recovered my senses, I began to struggle. Sebastian was like a mad dog, clinging tightly to me and refusing to let go. In a fit of rage, I couldn't help but raise my hand and slap him. The tight grip around my waist finally loosened. Sebastian took a step back, his expression dark and unfathomable. I clenched my numb palm, my voice unable to hide its trembling. "Sebastian, are you crazy? Am I crazy or not? Shouldn't you know best?" Sebastian curled his lips slightly, his gaze sinking. "Eleanor, you have always known how to grasp me, how to make my heart ache." Clara had retreated into the courtyard at some point, her head bowed, not daring to make a sound. Inside the room, he and I faced each other in silence. After a while, he stepped forward and gently wrapped his arms around my shoulders. "Eleanor, I regret it." On the way to the royal villa, there seemed to be an invisible barrier separating me and Sebastian. Neither said a word to the other. By the time we arrived, the banquet was already more than halfway through. Lily was dancing gracefully in the center, and Arthur was personally playing the zither, accompanying her. At a glance, they truly looked like a match made in heaven. It seems General Xiao and Miss Lily are the true heaven-made pair. I heard they shared life and death at the border. Now returning with great merits, he just let that legal wife of merchant origin reap the benefits. Indeed. One look at General Xiao and you know he has a bright official career ahead of him. Having a legal wife with such a lowly background is truly too regrettable. I stood below the stage, listening to the whispers from all directions, without a single ripple of emotion in my heart. Sebastian instinctively took a step toward me. I gave him a glance, my eyes warning him. He stiffened, hesitated for a moment, and then turned to walk toward the banquet. The moment the Crown Prince appeared, the lively atmosphere instantly quieted down. Arthur hastily stood up, stepping forward to shield Lily. Sebastian shot him a cold glance. "Arthur, you have truly disappointed me." Arthur's expression changed slightly. Just as he was about to explain himself, he caught a glimpse of me standing behind the Crown Prince from the corner of his eye. He instantly misunderstood, thinking I had invited the Crown Prince here, and his gaze immediately darkened. He glared at me furiously. "Eleanor, Arthur, today I am giving you a choice." Sebastian directly cut him off. "Send this Miss Lily away, and you are still my good cousin. Otherwise, I will have to clean house on behalf of my uncle." Arthur's face instantly turned ugly. "Your Highness, what do you mean by this? For these past 3 years, whenever there was a war at the border, the Song family gathered money and provisions. Every battle you won, every arrow you shot, the Song family contributed greatly. Do you accept this debt of gratitude or not?" Arthur opened his mouth, his eyes looking at me with even more disgust. "Lily is already pregnant with my flesh and blood. If your Highness wants me to send her away, it is no different than taking my life." "Good, very good." Sebastian was both disappointed and furious. He swiftly drew the longsword from the guard beside him with a backhand motion, and immediately slashed toward the person standing behind Arthur. Arthur reflexively drew his own sword to block it. In the blink of an eye, the two of them were fighting right at the banquet. Unsure of who struck her with a palm strike, Lily was pushed aside, falling crookedly right at my feet. Her eyes turned red from the pain, and she glared at me with resentment. "It's you. You're the one who invited the Crown Prince here. You want to use the Crown Prince to force me to leave." She gritted her teeth, as if trying to reassure herself, emphasizing every word. The Crown Prince and Arthur are cousins after all. You will never achieve your goal. Hearing this, I widened my eyes and carefully evaluated her. Lily, exactly how stupid are you? Even at this point, you still can't see that the reason His Highness the Crown Prince highly valued Arthur was, from the very beginning, entirely because of… Lily's expression changed slightly. What are you saying? I slowly bent down, pinched her chin and told her in a mocking tone. Did you think Sebastian came today to force Arthur to make a choice? You are wrong. He wants me to see Arthur clearly, so I will be completely dead to him. Lily's face instantly turned deathly pale. No, that's impossible. You are just a merchant's daughter. Where would you get the ability to associate with the Crown Prince? You're deliberately trying to scare me, right? Seeing her refusal to believe, I pulled the corners of my lips and struck her with another lightning bolt of truth. Why do you think old General Xiao pushed for the marriage between me and Arthur? It's because, with me in the Xiao manor, Arthur had the chance to soar to the heavens. Otherwise, with a brain that wouldn't even weigh 2 ounces on a scale, who would value him? Lily's pupils contracted sharply. She looked at me in horror, her face turning even whiter than paper. Thud. A heavy sound echoed at my feet. Arthur was kicked by Sebastian, falling straight down from the stage. His forehead was slashed by a blade, a deep cut revealing the bone. Now, with his face covered in blood, he fell right next to Lily. I took 2 steps back, keeping my distance from that unlucky fool. Right at this moment, Sebastian spoke, neither rushed nor slow. Carrying the oral decree of His Majesty Arthur has achieved merits in leading the army, and is specially bid the title of General of the Agile Cavalry. However, the border is a crucial location that cannot be left empty. You are specially ordered to depart for the border after the new year to guard it. Without a royal summons, you are not permitted to return to the capital. As soon as the oral decree finished, the already solemn atmosphere surged with unpredictable undercurrents. Anyone with eyes could see that Arthur had completely fallen out of favor this time. Those ministers who had still been weighing their options instantly wished they could stay 80 feet away from him. Those who had just been praising him and Lily as a talented scholar and beautiful lady immediately changed their tune. I didn't expect Madame Xiao to have secretly done so much. General Xiao, after returning to the capital, didn't mention a single word about his wife's contributions, and instead gave all the credit to a concubine, truly shameless to the extreme. Favoring a concubine and disrespecting a wife is bad enough, but to elevate a mistress to suppress the legal wife truly goes against the imperial teachings. Old General Xiao was so righteous and awe-inspiring back then. How could he produce such a sinister descendant? When I return, I will immediately submit a memorial so His Majesty can also clearly see this petty man's behavior. The crowd either disdained Arthur's actions or deliberately tried to curry favor with the Crown Prince. The bustling sounds of discussion were not lowered in volume at all. Lily sat blankly beside Arthur, her face utterly hollow. Since the day she followed Arthur back to the capital, she had dreamed every single day of the wealthy and noble life of an aristocratic madam. Could it be that now, this dream was shattering? She looked at Sebastian in panic, then looked at me, and then swept her gaze across the grand hall full of disgusted eyes. Finally, a belated sense of regret swelled up in her heart. I was wrong. Madam, please, be magnanimous. She crawled to my feet, sobbing and crying remorsefully. Madam, from now on, this servant will definitely know her place and behave. Please, think of a way to help me. Arthur. No, General Xiao went through life and death to earn the chance to return. He cannot lose everything. And she also could not lose this chance to enjoy wealth that she had finally obtained with such difficulty. Arthur had sobered up the moment Sebastian announced the decree, only it seemed he hadn't fully reacted yet. He stared at me blankly. You? What did you do? I gave him a perfunctory smile. Congratulations to you, General of the Agile Cavalry. Arthur's expression instantly turned extremely ugly. Eleanor, why? Why did you do this? Didn't you love me? How could you join hands with an outsider to bully me together? I gently pulled the corners of my lips, wanting to say that I had never loved him, but looking at him and Lily, I felt there was no need to explain it more. I decisively turned around. Arthur finally panicked. Eleanor, stop right there. I completely ignored the sounds behind me. As I left, Sebastian immediately chased after me. I can petition His Majesty on your behalf to grant a decree for you and him to divorce, he offered. It is merely a divorce. There is no need for your highness to step forward, I replied coldly. Sebastian's eyes darkened, yet he relentlessly chased after me. Eleanor, you have already clearly seen his true nature. Do you? Do you still love him? Hearing this, I let out a cold, mocking laugh. Sebastian, even if I do not love him, I will never love you ever again. Having said that, I straightforwardly dropped the carriage curtain and ordered the driver to depart. Not long after returning to the Xiao Manor, Arthur and Lily also arrived. As soon as Arthur returned to the estate, before he even had time to bandage the wound on his forehead, he rushed straight to my courtyard. I don't know what Lily said to him on the way back. Arthur, who usually considered himself aloof and looked down on me, the man who thought I was solely dedicated to climbing the social ladder, bowed his noble head for the very first time, his eye rims red, trying to curry favor with me. Eleanor, I regret it, so what? Today everything was my fault. I brought Lily back just to anger you, to provoke you. His eyes reddened again, looking at me pitifully. Why didn't you get jealous? I mockingly pulled the corners of my lips. You think too highly of yourself. Arthur's eyes darkened for a moment, then he tried hard to regain his spirits. It's fine, I have figured it out. On the way back, I ordered someone to buy abortion medicine. Lily will not give birth to this child. Wait until things settle down, I will send her to a country estate. From now on, we will live well together. He lowered his voice, laying out his plans word by word. Hearing this, I only felt nauseous. Arthur, you are truly despicable and shameless to the extreme. You were the one who deliberately claimed Lily. The storm was also stirred up by you. Now you want to use a woman's health and an innocent life to make it up to me. The more I spoke, the more disgusting I found his face. The hands resting by my side began to itch. Slap. A heavy slap landed forcefully, and immediately after, my other hand delivered another slap. After delivering those two slaps to vent my anger, I pointed straight at the courtyard gate and shouted coldly, "Get out. Get out of my courtyard right now." Arthur scrambled away, but the next day, he shamelessly came back. Even though I didn't bother to pay attention to him, he could still ramble on by himself all day long. Eleanor, I don't want to go back to the border anymore. You have a deep friendship with the Crown Prince. Could you please ask him to plead with His Majesty to retract the imperial order? Eleanor, I have already sent Lily to a manor outside the city. I won't see her again. Last night, my father came to me in a dream and beat me heavily, warning me that if I couldn't beg for your forgiveness, he would expel me from the family. Madam, won't you just look at me once? Cousin struck too heavily, my face is ruined as well. The end of the year was approaching. I was busy checking the ledgers sent to the capital from various places, up to my neck in work every single day. Finally, on the day before New Year's Eve, I finished checking the ledgers of the last shop. Putting down the ledger, I took the hot cup of tea Clara handed me, and took a sip to moisten my throat. Today is already New Year's Eve. Time really flies, I murmured. Yes, madam, Clara replied. That person is busy trying to please you every day. He still wants you to step forward and persuade the Crown Prince to help him stay in the capital. Delusional wishful thinking. I evaluated without holding back. Clara blinked and reported honestly, I heard that person specifically prepared a surprise for you, madam. Right tonight. It doesn't matter. I have also prepared a surprise for him. I narrowed my eyes, thinking about how I was about to escape this cage and return to freedom. My mood immediately became relaxed. After locking all the audited ledgers into the cabinet, I finally remembered to instruct Clara. The 3-year agreement between the old general and me has expired. The ledgers of the funds I contributed to the Xiao family over the years have also been audited. Have the servants prepare to go to the storehouse and pack everything up. Clara hesitated, showed a look of hesitation. Does this really have to be done? If this gets out, how will outsiders view you, madam? Seeing her hesitate over money again, I felt both angry and amused. Every piece of real gold and silver was earned back by my own 2 hands. Of course, I must take them with me. How much are the opinions of outsiders worth? Clara lowered her head in shame. This servant knows her mistake. Knowing your mistake and correcting it is the greatest good. I patted her shoulder. Clara secretly sighed in relief and asked again, then when do we leave? I thought for a moment and said, tomorrow. Before we go, we should also go to the old general's shrine to pay respects and offer a stick of incense. In the evening, Arthur finally returned from outside, covered in the dust of his journey. Before he even had time to sit down for the New Year's Eve dinner, he hurriedly ordered the servants to set up the things he brought back in the courtyard. After everything was prepared, he came to invite me out. Boom, A brilliant red firework bloomed across the night sky. The fireworks were dazzling but faded in a fleeting moment, just like the true hearts of men. Unable to withstand the test of time, I looked up at the layers of fireworks continuously exploding, my expression calm. Arthur stood beside me, looking excited. Eleanor, do you like the gift I gave you? From now on, I will not treat you poorly. Just set your mind at ease and be my madam, okay? Hearing this, I turned to look at him, slowly pulling a divorce paper from my sleeve. I'm sorry, but we should get a divorce. Arthur's smile instantly froze on his face. What do you mean? Your father wrote it. My 3-year stay at the Xiao Manor has reached its term, so I can leave. Arthur instinctively denied it. Impossible. My father? I unfolded the divorce letter. On it was indeed the handwriting of old General Xiao. The panic on his face turned into shock. As if I didn't notice, I smiled and asked back, do you like the New Year's gift I gave you? Arthur's eyes widened, covered in bloodshot veins. You did this on purpose. Ever since the celebration banquet, you stood by coldly watching me. Because I wanted to please you, I hurt Lely time and time again. You made me there was still room to turn things around, only to deal me a fatal blow when everything was already set in stone. Arthur's face was deathly pale. The look in his eyes changed from resentment to fear. Hearing this, I smiled slowly. Arthur, who do you think you are? You tell me to forgive you, and I absolutely must forgive you. I scoffed, took 2 steps forward, grabbed his collar, pulled his head down, and contemptuously observed that face. This face of yours originally had some merit, but now your only advantage is gone. My face. He was stunned for a moment, seemingly finally figuring something out. He looked at me in disbelief. The Crown Prince. Yum. He suddenly grabbed my hand tightly. The fawning look on his face turned to shock and anger. The person you love is Sebastian. That's right, I admitted decisively. Arthur looked as if he had suffered a heavy blow, staggering backward several steps, his face pale. Why did you? Since that's the case, the person you love wasn't me, so why did you approach me in the first place? Speaking of this, he suddenly paused, seemingly finally remembering the situation from a few years ago. You mentioned Vincent to me. Vincent, ha. You wanted to extract news about Sebastian from me. His voice suddenly became hoarse, the anger in his eyes turning into agony. From beginning to end, you only saw me as his substitute, right? Facing his questioning, I only hesitated for a second before admitting it. Yes, at that time, old General Xiao came to me, using Sebastian's whereabouts to make a deal with me. The price was marrying you. Arthur looked as if he had been struck by lightning. Terrified, he let go of my hand and backed away continuously. Eleanor, how could you be like this? His eye rims turned red. I finally managed to persuade myself to fall in love with you again with such difficulty, yet you tell me you never liked me. Looking at him, whose soul seemed to have been shattered by the blow right in front of my eyes, a trace of pity finally rose in my heart. Arthur, our debts are settled. The border is cold and bitter. Take good care of your own little life. Early the next morning, carriages quietly departed from the Xiao Manor. Arthur chased after the convoy like a madman. Don't go. Stop right there. I do not agree to the divorce. Eleanor, you cannot go. I leaned against the soft cushions, completely indifferent to the noise outside. In the blink of an eye, the convoy had left the city. At the 10-lit pavilion in the outskirts of the capital, we met Sebastian, who was already waiting there. The moment Arthur saw him, the emotions he couldn't hold back instantly collapsed. He forgot the hierarchy between monarch and subject, rushing up with the intent to fight him. I only took one glance and ordered my people to continue driving the carriage. Seeing that I had no intention of stopping to wait for him, Sebastian panicked. He ordered his guards to help block Arthur, while he extricated himself and rushed in front of my carriage. Eleanor, do you have nothing to say to me? Move aside. Sebastian stood perfectly still, staring at me intently. Curve me a reason. I curled my lips and asked him in return, did you always think that if I left Arthur I would definitely choose you? Sebastian's expression darkened. Is that not so? Clearly, we met first. I know the person in your heart from the very beginning has always been only me. But you lied to me. Sebastian opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. I looked at him coldly. Sebastian, are you willing to give up the imperial throne that is well within your grasp, just for me? Sebastian furrowed his brows deeply. Why? I didn't answer, but continued questioning him. Do you dare to swear in front of His Majesty, in front of all civil and military officials, that in this lifetime you will only marry me alone? Sebastian opened his mouth, but in the end, he still couldn't say it. even though I had already guessed the answer in my heart. At this moment, I still couldn't avoid feeling sad. I shook my head in disappointment, withdrawing the last trace of gentleness in the gaze I directed at him. Sebastian, from the first time we met, you lied to me. If I chose to stay, with your status, there would be even more lies separating us in the future. You cannot give me a stable life, nor can you give me a promise of a lifetime. Since that is the case, what right do you have to demand my love? You are a descendant of the royal family, the future son of heaven. You must care for the common people of the world, while I only want to be an ordinary person. Go back. Let us never meet again. After saying that, I threw back the jade pendant I had kept for so many years. Then, I decisively dropped the carriage curtain, hiding the moisture welling in my eyes. The carriage set off again. Carriage after carriage brushed past Sebastian, who was blocking the road, heading firmly towards the south, moving further and further away, until finally disappearing completely into the rain and snow. Arthur dragged his heavily bruised body, his expression ugly, as he rushed up to Sebastian. Where is she? She's gone. Arthur's eyes turned red with anger. Why didn't you make her stay? Couldn't she not live without you? Sebastian quietly looked at his useless cousin, his gaze cold and indifferent. Arthur, have you fallen in love with her too? All the blame in Arthur's heart instantly choked in his throat. The two faced each other silently. It's unknown who struck first, but an almost life and death fight began. In the end, both suffered heavy injuries, lying sprawled in the snow. Arthur tilted his head back, watching the snow falling from the sky. Teardrops fell. The affection and regret he had buried deep in his heart for so long could finally no longer be suppressed and gushed out. She won't come back, he roared, sobbing amidst the white snow. Only at this moment did he dare to admit that back then, on their wedding night, when he lifted the bridal veil, his heart had truly fluttered. It was only because of his competitive nature that he hadn't dared to admit it. He deceived himself and others, forcing himself to believe that he didn't love her. Sebastian, half dead, leaned against a cold rock. He looked down at the jade pendant in his hand that had already lost its warmth and laughed bitterly. It is I who am unworthy of her. That year, during our first meeting in Jinling Prefecture, if I had just revealed my identity early on, how wonderful it would have been. A momentary wrong choice led to one wrong step, and then every step was wrong. Now, spilled water is hard to gather. Inside the carriage heading south, I pulled out from my chest a jade pendant identical to the one I had just thrown away. Tracing it absent-mindedly, I whispered silently, Sebastian, with your lingering guilt protecting me, my whole life will no longer face any obstacles. This is the final use I have for you. In the intricate dance of love, betrayal, and hidden identities, Eleanor's journey reveals a timeless truth. Never let another's deception define your worth or destiny. She loved a prince who concealed his name, married his shadow to fulfill a promise, and poured years of silent sacrifice into a man who later discarded her. Yet in the end, she chose herself, walking away with her fortune, dignity, and freedom untouched. This teaches us that real strength is born not from clinging to illusions or seeking revenge, but from the quiet courage to release what no longer serves us. When love becomes a cage of lies, true victory lies in breaking free and becoming the author of your own unapologetic life. The story ends here for now. If it touched your heart or left you thinking, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share Raccoon Tale to help more stories come to life. See you in the next tale.